Nestled among the bluffs and lush landscapes of Natchez, Mississippi, lies a place that is both haunting and largely forgotten, an area known locally as the Devil's Punch Bowl. Despite its serene surroundings, this natural depression holds a dark and nearly invisible chapter of American history, shrouded in tragedy and marked by a sorrowful irony. After the Civil War, the Punch Bowl became the final, tragic resting place for thousands of freed African Americans who sought refuge from their brutal pasts, only to face confinement, disease, and death. In 1863, as the Union forces advanced and the South weakened, enslaved African Americans seized the opportunity to escape the shackles that had bound them for generations. Many escaped by following Union armies, hoping that the Northern troops who symbolized freedom and liberation would protect them. They traveled across dangerous, war-ravaged terrain, often with only the clothes on their backs and their families at their side. Driven by dreams of liberty, thousands fled to Union-controlled territories, often gathering near army encampments where they believed they would be safe. Natchez, Mississippi, controlled by the Union at this time, became one of these sanctuaries. Located along the Mississippi River, it was strategically significant, attracting not only soldiers and supply lines, but also thousands of freed African Americans seeking a new beginning. Yet, the Union troops stationed in Natchez faced an overwhelming crisis as more and more formerly enslaved people flooded into the town, desperate for help, food, and shelter. With the sudden influx of freed people, the Union Army was unprepared for the challenge of providing adequate support and resources. Natchez, a town that was not equipped to house this sudden population surge, struggled under the weight of what quickly became a humanitarian crisis. In response, the Union Army established makeshift camps, among them a designated area within a natural geographic formation, a depression surrounded by steep cliffs known as the Devil's Punch Bowl. The name would soon take on a grimly appropriate significance. The Punch Bowl's geography, encircled by towering cliffs with a swift river flowing nearby, served both as a natural barrier and as an effective means of confinement. The bluffs offered a strategic vantage point for the Union soldiers to monitor the area, but for the freed men, women, and children placed there, the site was isolating. They found themselves effectively trapped within this natural pit, unable to leave or improve their conditions, while the Union Army's priorities remained focused on controlling the South. The lack of food, clean water, and medical supplies within the camp led to dire living conditions. Without proper shelter, families crowded together in tents or makeshift structures made of scraps, leaving them exposed to the elements and vulnerable to illness. Mosquitoes swarmed in the humid Mississippi climate, spreading diseases like malaria and yellow fever among the weakened residents. Soon, an epidemic of typhoid and smallpox broke out, turning the camp into a place of rampant sickness. Freed people within the Punch Bowl were not free to leave. They were essentially held there under guard. Union soldiers, wary of potential unrest among the freed people and the Southern locals who resented them, monitored the camp closely, creating a prison-like atmosphere. This confinement, combined with the scarcity of food and the spread of disease, led to a devastating loss of life. Starvation and illness ravaged the camp, claiming the lives of countless men, women, and children who had escaped slavery only to face suffering and death in what should have been a haven. For these formerly enslaved individuals, the Punch Bowl must have seemed like a cruel twist of fate. They had fled from lives of brutality and bondage, believing that freedom was within reach, only to be cast into yet another form of confinement. The promises of liberation had turned bitter in the isolation of the Punch Bowl, where the Union Army's inability or unwillingness to provide adequate care translated to an agonizing death sentence for many. Approximately 10,000 people are believed to have perished due to disease, starvation, and exposure. As for survivors, some managed to escape, but the exact numbers remain unclear. The Union Army eventually left Natchez, and with the soldiers' departure, some of the remaining survivors were able to flee. Oral histories suggest that those who survived managed to find a way out after the camp was effectively abandoned. However, many of those who survived the ordeal likely left Natchez seeking safety elsewhere, making it difficult to trace their subsequent lives or exact numbers. One of the most painful aspects of the Devil's Punch Bowl tragedy is how it has faded from memory. Unlike other historical sites that document and honor the lives lost or the resilience shown, the Punch Bowl remains largely unrecognized in American historical narratives. The thousands who perished there were often buried in mass graves along the riverbanks, their final resting places marked by neither gravestones nor memorials. Historians have struggled to uncover documentation about the camp, as few records were kept. The survivors and descendants of those affected by the tragedy have shared oral histories, but without a formal acknowledgement of the site's significance, much of this history has been lost to time. The legacy of the Punch Bowl exists mainly in the memories and stories passed down within local communities, and while some historians and activists have sought to bring this story to light, the tragedy remains a little-known part of the Civil War's aftermath. The events at the Devil's Punch Bowl had a lasting impact on the Black community in Natchez and across the South. For those who survived or had family members lost there, the experience underscored the precariousness of freedom in a nation struggling to redefine itself after the Civil War. It also revealed the harsh realities of life in the Reconstruction South, where the promise of liberty was often overshadowed by neglect, discrimination, and violence. The mass loss of life at the Punch Bowl created a lingering sense of sorrow and resilience within Natchez's African-American community. As the town and the surrounding area evolved, stories about the Punch Bowl became part of local lore, a whispered acknowledgement of a brutal past that many dared not forget. For the descendants of those who perished, the Punch Bowl is both a place of pain and a testament to the endurance of a people who continued to seek dignity, identity, and justice against unimaginable odds. Today, the Devil's Punch Bowl remains an unmarked grave for thousands who died in pursuit of freedom. Its name alone is a haunting reminder of the suffering endured there. Yet the natural beauty of the area belies the history buried beneath. The Punch Bowl's steep cliffs are now overgrown with trees and vegetation, hiding any physical traces of the former camp and those who perished within its bounds. Visitors to Natchez might overlook the site entirely, unaware of the human toll exacted on those confined within it. For many, the Punch Bowl is an enduring symbol of the contradictions of American history, how the ideals of freedom and justice have so often clashed with the realities of oppression and cruelty. This natural landmark, with its forgotten history, challenges us to confront uncomfortable truths about the past and to acknowledge the sacrifices of those who suffered in silence. As historians continue to explore this tragedy, the story of the Punch Bowl offers valuable lessons about resilience and the price of freedom. The Devil's Punch Bowl is more than a tragic episode in the aftermath of the Civil War. It is a solemn reminder of the struggles endured by African Americans who fought for freedom. The suffering that took place there underscores the often overlooked reality of Reconstruction, that freedom for many came with unimaginable costs. For those trapped in the Punch Bowl, the promise of liberty was brutally tempered by confinement and hardship, and their story remains a testament to the fragility of freedom and the resilience of the human spirit. As we remember the Devil's Punch Bowl, we are called to honor the lives of those who endured not only the horrors of slavery, but also the devastating betrayals that followed. Their memory deserves more than silence. It deserves acknowledgement and respect, for the story of the Devil's Punch Bowl is a profound reminder that freedom has always been hard-won and often too fleeting. By preserving their legacy, we ensure that the sacrifices made there will not be forgotten, and that the lessons of this dark chapter in American history will continue to shape our understanding of justice and resilience.